if you're representing a client?
Well, it is incredibly difficult, and it's important to keep it compartmentalized because it's important for the defense team to understand who is giving what evidence to them. Oftentimes, when you have these quote unquote parallel prosecutions, you'll have one team of prosecutors releasing information that is in some way different from what another team of prosecutors is releasing in a parallel proceeding. And it can be very frustrating. And what the defense team will have to do is stay very organized so that they can complain, if they need to the correct judge about what prosecution team has failed to turn over the necessary evidence, and so they can keep it straight. Sometimes additionally evidence is turned over under a protective order, and this requires that the defense team keep what they're receiving compartmentalized. It can also be very difficult to sift through evidence that they're receiving in that way.
All right, you see that photo right there. He's shackled in court. Karen Agnifilo really took issue with that. The judge wasn't going to budge on that very question. She was asking, can my client be unshackled in court while he makes these appearances? Help us walk through a decision a judge makes like that. Why wouldn't he unshackle Mangione? He deemed that Mangione was dangerous. Is that sufficient?
It really isn't, and certainly there may be things that we just don't know that are happening in the background, but from what we can see in court and what we can hear in the public proceedings, there doesn't appear to be any specific reason. People go to courtrooms for proceedings and who are brought out from being in custody to participate without all of really what is almost like a circus in the circumstance. And there really is a problem from a constitutional perspective when someone is paraded through the courtroom with lots of people appearing to need to be there for security purposes to keep somehow someone in the public safe from this individual who is already in custody. It's difficult to really try to say that this person sitting here at the table surrounded by all kinds of security and shackled hand and foot is presumed innocent under the law. You're certainly telegraphing a presumption they did something to treat them that way in the first place.
I see. Okay, let's go over some more of Agnifilo's claims there that we just heard from. She is claiming his constitutional rights were violated. Are you sensing that that's the gist of some of their arguments that are forming in real time? That the search and seizure done at that McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, when he was apprehended, was not done above board. Remember, a weapon was obtained at the time on Mangione's person, I believe in his backpack. A laptop was in his backpack, and also currency, dollars, other foreign currency was obtained as well. It seemed like Agnifilo was moving there, saying that that was not done properly. How much of a heavy lift is that argument going to be?
Well, I think it's one that the defense team most certainly needs to pay very careful attention to, and it sounds like she's doing exactly that. Really, just because a person is arrested, it does not mean that law enforcement has the right to go through technical information on a computer or information that's contained data in that computer or phone. They may not, under certain circumstances, even be able to go into certain containers or backpacks, especially once a backpack or a bag has been removed from the defendant's or the accused's possession. So these are issues that a good defense lawyer, and certainly this lawyer appears to be doing everything she needs to be doing to analyze these issues, will pay close attention to. Did law enforcement follow the rules when they seized these items and investigated them further?
So this is my view here. I'm going to offer it. I'm going to see whether you agree with it. Because another claim that she made there was that the court of public opinion has already declared Luigi Mangione guilty. Now, how do you square that with the legions of fans that he has who claim that what he did, allegedly murder Brian Thompson in the broad morning daylight in Midtown Manhattan, that for whatever reason, they see that as some type of positive societal good here? Is there some cognitive dissonance going on with Karen Agnifilo saying, everyone already thinks he's guilty, and she was speaking not too far from his legion of fans and supporters there who are rallying behind him? Do you think that's cognitive dissonance? Do you think he has been kind of made guilty in the court of public opinion already?
You know, it's a great question. I think you could ask yourself, if you see someone being paraded down the street, maybe not even in the courtroom, surrounded by police officers, shackled hand and foot, the first question you're going to be asking yourself is, what did that person do? And this is how this individual, this accused individual, is being treated in a courtroom. It certainly makes a person who's watching all of this spectacle think they're guilty of something, or they wouldn't be handled in this fashion. And so these are very real concerns that the defense team must address early on, and they're going to have to be dealing with it right down to the day they pick a jury to hear this case.
I mean, that's the point here. I mean, before he allegedly did this, and we showed our viewers that surveillance video at the time on that day in early December, no one knew who Luigi Mangione was. Now the whole world knows who he is, so much so that he's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in some type of GoFundMe account for his legal defense. And he also put out a statement. He's communicating with the public as well. I want to get your thoughts on that. He said this on his website: I'm overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support. He says, powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions. And correct me if I'm wrong here, defendants in even murder cases have First Amendment rights here. But if you were his client, if you were representing him, would you be telling him to talk like that?
Well, it appears to me that these are very carefully planned statements that are being released in writing. And there's a big difference between that and someone who is speaking freely, either while they're out on bail. And in this case, the person speaking is speaking from in custody. It's a fairly controlled statement. In this circumstance, it seems to be innocuous enough. He's certainly in a position to be able to say, without disclosing information about his defense, that he appreciates all of the people who continue to lend their support, and in this case, even financial support to the defense.
And let's talk about that high-profile nature of this defendant now that he is so well known here. You already intimated that that could present problems when a jury has to be selected here. But would the defense be concerned that the judge, say in the case, might make an example out of him?
Sure. I mean, a case that has so much emotion before they even start a proceeding brings so many challenges in selecting a jury. You're really looking for people who can say that they can hear the facts and the evidence as laid out in the courtroom and not consider the baggage that they bring with them from exposure to information outside the courtroom, which really makes the defense lawyer's point about this potential suppression of evidence a huge consideration, where people from the law enforcement team or even city government officials going on to a documentary and making comments about evidence which has never even been disclosed to the defense team. It's really pretty out of the ordinary and dangerous.
On the flip side of that, I want to just get the prosecution's perspective here. To your point, because it is so high profile, that means you have to be even more careful and check all of your boxes so you don't inadvertently, because of the high profile nature of the case, make an unforced error, right?
That's completely true. And the prosecution has the responsibility to seek justice, right? They're supposed to go in there and without trying to gin up emotion around a certain offense, which in this case, you might say law enforcement going in, surrounding some accused person who hasn't been convicted of anything, could certainly be designed to create this emotional circumstance. The prosecution has to be very careful not to do that. That is not their role. And they're also going to have to be really careful as they ultimately move forward with trial to find jurors that don't have their mind made up about why an act took place in the first place.
Yeah, this is just such a fascinating case, but tragic nonetheless. And it just happened in December. And so it's very fresh on so many people's minds here. Anything else you'll be watching for as this case proceeds? I'll be looking for whether a trial date can be set. It seems like a lot of logistical hurdles right now.
I'm very interested to see how quickly the federal government proceeds with an answer on the question as to whether or not they're intending to seek death in this case. Oh, wow. I'm also particularly interested to see, now that the defense has access at least to certain evidence, probably by no means all of it, whether or not they start filing motions to suppress, or whether we start seeing more litigation that we can read about in their motions concerning Fourth Amendment search and seizure issues, those kinds of things.
All right, Nicole DeBoard, as always, thanks so much. Probably doesn't make sense. These are very complex legal cases. We'll continue to rely on you and have a good weekend.
Thanks, you as well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, nothing works on this acne.
Hi.
Who?
I'm a licensed dermatology provider from Curology. Answer a few questions, I'll look at your skin and prescribe you a personalized cream.
Wow!
Curology. Start today at urology.com.
Perhaps it's time we set our true spirit free, sharpen our instinct for life, and undomesticate.
Biden administration in 2021. And today we expect Kash Patel to be confirmed as the next director of the FBI. We are proud to announce that the president will host his first official cabinet meeting here at the White House next Wednesday, February 26th. In just 4 weeks, President Trump has already hosted the leaders of Israel, Japan, Jordan, and India. And next Monday, the president will host France's President Emmanuel Macron. And on Thursday, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will visit the White House as well. As you all know, over the past month, the president has taken questions from the press, all of you, nearly every single day, sometimes on multiple different occasions in the same day, on any topic any of you wish to talk about. President Trump set the tone on this approach immediately when he took more than 12 times the questions in his first few hours in office, as Joe Biden did in his entire first week. Yesterday, we hosted a local media row here at the White House with television and radio stations from across the country that reached up to 60 million viewers and listeners. In our ongoing pursuit of transparency on this 1 month celebration, I am thrilled to bring 3 of my colleagues and our policy experts here at the White House to further recap this incredible first month of accomplishments in greater detail. We have Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller, the Director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, and our National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. I will hand it over to them. They will deliver brief remarks on the accomplishments of this administration in the first month, and then we will open it up to Q&A. When we open up the Q&A portion, I do ask, for the sake of efficiency in this room, that you direct your question to the principal you seek an answer from, and I will call on you in this room. But first, I will let them roll through their remarks, and first up, I'll turn it over to Stephen Miller.
Thank you. It's great to be back. And I want to just thank you all for joining today, our 1 month celebration of the most historic opening to a presidency in American history. No president comes close to what Donald Trump has achieved over just the last 30 days. He has packed 8 years of transformative action, restoring this nation, restoring our laws, restoring fairness, restoring economic opportunity, restoring national security in just 1 month. No one in this country has ever seen anything like it. And when you look at the consequentiality and the significance and the transformative nature of the actions he's taking, it truly defies description. For example, in just one area, this nation has been plagued and crippled by illegal discrimination, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. It's strangled our economy. It has undermined public safety. It has made every aspect of life more difficult, more painful, and less safe. He has ended all DEI across the federal government. He has terminated all federal workers involved in promulgating these unlawful policies. He has ended diversity, equity, and inclusion in all federal contracting. He has restored merit as the cornerstone of all federal policy, restored the full, fair, impartial enforcement of our federal civil rights laws for the first time in generations. And he has cracked down on individuals across this government and nonprofits who have engaged in illegal racial discrimination against the American people. This includes making clear to every educational institution in this country that ending diversity, equity, and inclusion, ending unlawful race discrimination is a precondition of receiving federal funds. He has also saved women's sports by ending the participation of men in women's sports. He has ended radical gender ideology across the entire federal government, and he's pressured the private sector to also end and combat radical gender ideology. He's reestablished the scientific and biological truth that there are only two sexes in this country, male and female, and those are biologically based determinations. They are not based and can never be based on gender identity. That includes rooting out of the Department of Defense all DEI policies, all critical race theory, all gender madness, and once again having a military that is focused solely and exclusively on readiness, preparedness, and lethality. As I'm sure Kevin will talk about more, of course, he has undertaken a historic cost-cutting effort across the federal government, launching the first ever Department of Government Efficiency, uncovering corruption on a scale that we never thought imaginable, terminating every single federal worker that we have found to be engaged in the corruption and theft and the waste of taxpayer dollars, and already saving $50 billion in a single year, which over a 10-year period would be $500 billion. Just think about how vast and enormous that sum is. Of course, as you all know, he has renamed the Gulf of Mexico to its correct and proper name, the Gulf of America. He has renamed Mount Denali into Mount McKinley, part of a historic effort to restore patriotism and national pride all across this land. He has ended the weaponization of the federal government, restored the Department of Justice to its true mission of combating threats to this nation and keeping the American people safe. He has ended all federal censorship of free speech. This has been one of the greatest crises that has plagued this nation. Years and years and years, the federal government violating the First Amendment to take away Americans' right of free speech. President Trump has ended that, and he has demanded that all federal workers, all law enforcement cease any effort to intimidate the rights of Americans or to police their speech. He has also restored the death penalty at the Department of Justice, including for illegal aliens who commit murder, including for those who murder cops, and including for all of those who threaten Americans with heinous acts of violence. The death penalty is back. Law and order is back. The streets are being made safe once again. On the public health front, he has launched the nation's first ever commission, the MAHA Commission, Make America Healthy Again, following the historic confirmation of RFK Jr., to finally uncover the true root causes of the public health crisis in this country, the childhood disease epidemic in this country, the spiraling rates of pediatric cancer, and devastating childhood sickness. He has finally created a situation where the federal health agencies in this country will be focused on preventing disease, on keeping children from getting sick in the first place, not sending them to a lifetime in and out of hospitals, suffering needlessly, when we can find ways to prevent this epidemic of illness. Then, of course, on Homeland Security. Today, it is officially the law of the land, at the conclusion of the congressional notification process, that 6 Mexican cartels and 2 transnational gangs, Tren de Aragua, or TDA, and MS-13, so 8 organizations in total, are now formally designated as foreign terrorist organizations, which means that every single member of those organizations who operates on U.S. soil is now, as a legal matter, a terrorist, and they will be treated as terrorists. This is a sea change in U.S. policy. And this means the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security, along with the rest of U.S. law enforcement and the Department of Defense, are now operating in a legal reality where these cartels are recognized as terrorists. And there will be a whole of government effort to remove these terrorists from our soil and to degrade their ability to threaten or undermine any American security or sovereignty interests. Border crossings, since the day he took office, are down 95%. I think it's almost impossible to even describe the scale and scope of that achievement. President Trump, within days of taking office, cut border crossings 95%. And those few who have dared to cross are being either prosecuted or deported. They're either facing significant jail time for trafficking, smuggling, harboring, aiding, impeding, or they're being immediately removed from our soil. Either way, at the end of the process, they are going home. He's re-implemented Remain in Mexico, and he has obtained historic cooperation from foreign countries all around the world in accepting their deportees back. And he has used the United States military to fully seal the southern border with a historic deployment of both active duty and National Guard troops, resumed the building of infrastructure. He has opened up Guantanamo Bay, and he's using military aircraft to carry out deportations all across this country. And ICE is joining with ATF, DEA, and FBI to carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. The criminals are going home. The border is sealed shut. America is safe, sovereign, proud, and free. We are a nation that everyone in the world understands all across this planet. You do not come here illegally. You will not get in. You will go to jail. You will go home. You will not succeed. This is the biggest and most successful change in any area of law enforcement that this nation has ever seen, and he did it in under 1 month. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Stephen. One of the things that President Trump cares most about is job creation. And it was about 7 years ago, I had the honor of joining you in this room for the first time. And it looks like we've created a lot more jobs in the last month. Look at how many people are here. My estimate is about 180, but I didn't count. So thank you. It's really an honor to be back here. I think that I just want to go over a few things and then hand it off to Mike. The first thing is that the president has told us to prioritize fighting inflation. And he had to do that because, as you know, President Biden let inflation get completely out of control. And he did it with policies that made no sense. They made no sense. A lot of times people say to us, our friends, the journalists, why are you doing that? But I like to think, why did they do that? Why did they spend so much money? And then why did the Fed print so much money so that we had inflation as high as we've ever seen since Jimmy Carter? So why did they do that? So we're addressing inflation. We didn't have to address it in the first term because it was always in the ones, almost always. But we're going to get it back there. And how are we doing it? Well, we're doing it with a plan that President Trump and I and others have talked about in the Oval that involves like every level of fighting inflation. First, the macroeconomic level. We're cutting spending. We're cutting spending in negotiations with people on the Hill. We're cutting spending with the advice of our IT consultant, Elon Musk. And then we're also looking into supply side things, like restoring Trump's tax cuts, maybe even expensing new factories so that there's an explosion of supply. If you have an explosion of supply and a reduction in government demand, then inflation goes way down. And then one of the things that you want to say is, well, when are you going to see it? Well, the first thing that you'll see when the markets believe that we're going to get inflation under control is that the 10-year Treasury rate goes down, because that's how they think about future expected inflation. And so we're still going to see some memory of Biden's inflation. It's not going to go away in a month. But the 10-year Treasury before the last consumer price index had dropped about 40 basis points. 40 basis points because markets were optimistic about our ability to fight inflation. 40 basis points is kind of not a fun thing to say. Economists talk that way, I apologize. But the way to think about it is, for a typical mortgage, if that affects the mortgage rate, then it's going to save a typical family buying a house about $1,000 a year. And that's just in our first month. Okay. The second thing we've done is we've had a lot of trade talks. In fact, I was just meeting a minister from Mexico with Howard Lutnick just a couple of hours ago. And we're talking about reciprocal trade, and we're also talking about the fentanyl crisis. And so reciprocal trade is about our government treating other governments the way they treat us. We want trade to be fair. It turns out that Americans have been disadvantaged by foreign governments over and over, and President Trump wants it to stop. And the fact that struck me as most noticeable when I started to look at what President Trump was asking us to do is that last year we have data, U.S. companies paid $370 billion in taxes to foreign governments. $370 billion. Last year, foreign multinationals paid us $57 billion in taxes. We have 1/4 of world GDP. They have 3/4 of world GDP, and we're paying 370. They're paying 57. This is not reciprocal. We're going to try, or we're going to fix it. The other thing that we've done is we've had an all of the above energy approach that's led by Doug Burgum and Chris and a really large team, EPA.
Patriot Urgent Care is here for you from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So whether it's a nasty cold that won't go away, a painful sore throat, or an unexpected injury, with 9 locations across Maryland, there's a Patriot Urgent Care just around the corner. But I need some more. Yo,
make me go, cause I just came around to say hello. Oh, oh, oh. I just came around to say hello. Oh, say hello. Hello, Moto.
And we've already made so many actions that are going to affect the price of energy and lower inflation. We've opened up 625 million acres to energy exploration. We've cut 50 years of red tape that makes it so you can't have permits. And we've even made it so that when you go home, if you get a new one, then you can take a shower or flush a toilet or read under a light bulb. We're doing that too. So finally, let's just think about like the facts that we can see right now that we think are awesome. So guess what? Small business optimism has gone up by the most ever since President Trump came in. ISM, which is the measure of what's going on in manufacturing, it's expanding again for the first time in years. CEO confidence is the highest it's been in years. And the reason people are thinking this is that our policies give people cause for optimism. And then I want to reiterate what Stephen Miller said, because it's so important, and it's so important for financial markets to start to digest this, that if, say, the Treasury Secretary or any cabinet secretary with Elon Musk is able to find some savings, say $100 billion, well, in CBO land, that's actually like about 10 times that, or maybe 12 times that over a 10-year window. And so when you're thinking about the negotiations right now over reconciliation and thinking about, well, 4 trillion, 5 trillion, well, those numbers in terms of the savings are going to end up being small because of all the waste that we're finding. And so we're incredibly optimistic about the future of inflation and the future of our economy. And we're optimistic because we're making so much progress so far, and we already see it in market prices. And with that, I'll hand it off the mic.
Thanks. Well, good afternoon. What a month, and what a sea change in our foreign policy. In addition to what we're doing on the border and restoring American sovereignty, in addition to what we're doing in our economy and the job creation and the inflation reduction, we are bringing the world back to where it was at the end of President Trump's first term, which is a world of peace, prosperity, and looking forward and getting us out of the chaos.
Yes. We back in the building with another podcast vlog. This is Raw Dope Podcast Vlog, and I'm your host, Sam 5000. And I was late this morning, but I gotta start off with how I like to start off. Good morning, everybody. What's happening? Listen. Hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. We got Luigi on the chopping board. We got the Menendez brothers on the chopping board and somebody else on the chopping board. But we're going to get to it, man. So Luigi, killed the CEO, health CEO, and he has a crazy fan club. I had to take an important phone call just now, so that's how, that's how I was held up. But Luigi's back in court, and he has...
The man accused of killing the CEO of United Healthcare.
He has a huge fan base. This guy done raised up over $1 million, almost $1 million, over 500,000 for his lawyer fee. You know what I mean? So this dude committed a crazy crime. He's possibly facing the death penalty, and the GoFundMe, it's looking better than a kid trying to get out of orphanage. That's how deep that GoFundMe is.
The CEO of United Healthcare made his first court appearance since his December arraignment. Luigi Mangione is now facing state and federal murder and terror charges for shooting outside a New York City hotel room. Fox's Connor Hansen reports.
Luigi Mangione was escorted into a New York courtroom in a bulletproof vest, handcuffs, and shackles. His attorney argued that they haven't received all the evidence yet. The judge has yet to set a trial date.
Luigi's right to a fair trial is being infringed upon because he is being publicly treated as guilty.
Outside his latest hearing, supporters of the accused killer lined up hoping to catch a glimpse. There was even a truck adorned with supportive messages.
I don't believe Luigi's the one who did it. There's a lot of people who have been hurt and killed by our healthcare system.
Last week, Mangione made his first statement since he was locked up, posted to a website set up by his attorneys. It read, quote, "I am overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written to share their story and express their support. Powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions. And a crowdfunding site has raised more than $500,000 for the murder suspect."
The defendant recently shot Mr. Thompson twice in Midtown Manhattan. It was targeted, premeditated, and meant to sow terror.
Mangione is facing several state and federal murder charges. One of them could carry the death penalty. Investigators say they have overwhelming evidence.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah. Candy Cane in the building. Oh, my God.
Care CEO Brian Thompson outside an investor meeting in Midtown Manhattan. For now, Mangione is being held in a Brooklyn federal lockup with other high-profile inmates like Sean Diddy Combs and Sam Bankman-Fried. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox 4 News.
I'm Jordan Dunbar. This is the Mangione Trial Podcast from the...
No, they got podcast name after this guy. Just one more.
With his arms and ankles shackled and donning a bulletproof vest, Luigi Mangione arrives at a Manhattan courtroom. This is his first court appearance since December, when he pleaded not guilty to state murder and terrorism charges. Mangione is accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Prosecutors allege the 26-year-old shot Thompson outside of a hotel in Manhattan before going on the run. He was arrested 5 days later while eating at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. In the hallway of the courthouse, members of the public wait to see the alleged killer, some of them outwardly supporting him. Mangione in court today for a status hearing, which began with prosecutors reviewing evidence they've turned over to the defense, including police body camera footage and surveillance videos. There were no cameras in the courtroom, but Mangione's lawyer speaking to media briefly outside, decrying the fact that her client is in trouble.
He's being treated differently because he's being held in federal custody than any other person who would be facing serious murder one charges in New York State court.
His lawyer also added that Mangione's right to a fair trial is being impeded.
This week on HBO, in a documentary, I see the chief of detectives and the New York City mayor, full hair and makeup done, sitting down and giving an interview for television and talking about the evidence in Luigi's case, talking about police paperwork that we don't have, talking about forensics that we have not yet received. I guess we have now today, but I didn't when I was sitting there learning about the case, hearing an actor play Luigi, reading from a journal that they say is Luigi's, and we have yet to receive it from the prosecution.
His lawyer not taking questions following her remarks, but saying Mangione wanted to thank his supporters. Trial for the state case has not yet been set. For City News, I'm Erica Natividad.
So this dude, Luigi, murders a man in cold blood and got a big ass support system. He has a huge support system. Huge support system. A huge support system. He got Ty, what up? Now, man, the Mom Squad in the building, Yerb in the building, South Fee in the building, Candy Cane, Ty in the building. So let's get to these correctional officers. I know I talked a lot about this yesterday, but I ain't want to let it go. Damn. I got to play this first, bro, before I get to that. You know, when you do this news vlog and shit, this shit comes up.
Hey, guys,
This news, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. I'm running late this morning, y'all, but I had to get busy.
Involving what police are calling 3 major South Philadelphia shooting gangs. 12 people now charged for their roles in more than a dozen crimes, including a homicide. The district attorney says the group is affiliated with a street gang. Here's our Steve Keeley.
kids. These are young people doing horrific things.
The kids, all but this one, locked up and held on bail as high as $12.5 million. The horrific things they're accused of: murder, shooting 26 people, and carjacking others to use those cars in shootings, with victims as young as a 2-year-old. Police say shootings committed by members of 3 rival gangs, with members as young as Little League baseball team members.
The shooters are getting younger.
The shootings are no longer just neighborhood based. And the guns that they're using are from the illicit gun trade, the straw purchasing and gun trafficking that we've been fighting against.
Javon Solomon is now 16 and wanted for a shooting when he was just 14, 2 years ago, here on the 700 block of Jackson Street, among the mapped out long list of shootings that began 4 years ago in an almost nonstop retaliation mini war that these so-called kids saw as a kid's game, a veteran detective says.
A lot of these young kids think it's a game. On social media, they compare it to a basketball game. And how that works is for every shooting victim, they say they have a point. It's really, honestly, just a game to them.
And it's now game over for many of those arrested and not seeing the outside again for a long, long time. With astronomical bails set in proportion to the astronomical mayhem they're all charged with. Like Eli Simmons, now 19, charged with shooting 16 different people in 9 different incidents, starting when he was just 15 years old. Prosecutors say they brag about being in a gang called the Senders and its killing and shootings, then make videos that help lead to their own identification.
Was that these Senders used a motto or a slogan in many of their music videos, raps, and other social media posts. That slogan was, if you want to join the Senders, get a body, then you gang with us.
31 victims. We cannot lose sight of that. 31 victims, 2-year-old victim. Man, can you imagine the amount of trauma served on those blocks, those neighborhoods, those families? It's disastrous. It's catastrophic.
In Center City, Steve Keeley, Fox 29 News.
Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Yeah, let's get to it now. Oh, don't cookie motherfuckers right here. Yo, it's just a lot of cases going on in the world. It's just real, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's just real, bro. They say 6 more people gonna be charged in Robert Brooks' death too. I ain't gonna hold you, nah.
Today marks
60 years, Malcolm X McDonald.
Murderer! 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 Murderer!
Tonight, tense moments in court as one by one, in handcuffs, 9 former or suspended New York State corrections officers made their first appearance before an Oneida County judge. 5 of them, Nicholas Anzalone, David Kingsley, Anthony Farina, Christopher Walrath, and Matthew Gallagher, facing murder charges for the December death of inmate Robert Brooks.
Facts.
Redacted body
Top
cam
of the
video
morning,
from
Bram.
that day shows the group of officers repeatedly kicking and punching Brooks in the legs and chest and trying to jam an object down his throat.
These men murdered my father.
Yeah.
It was all video.
It definitely was all video.
The alleged murder happened inside a medical examination room at the Marcy Correctional Facility in upstate New York on December 9th of last year.
Robert Brooks committed a crime. He was doing his time. He had a right to safety, to humanity. He was denied that. This is unacceptable.
3 other corrections officers, David Walters, Michael Fisher, and Michael Mashaw, facing charges of manslaughter, and 1, Nicholas Gentile, of tampering with evidence.
Our investigation further revealed that there was no provocation by Robert Brooks that would have precipitated any physical response whatsoever, never mind the physical response that was inflicted upon him.
All defendants pleading not guilty today.
Waiting formal proceedings of venture to not get jail charges at this time.
And released on bail, or in Gentile's case, of his own recognizance. Brooks was serving a 12-year sentence for stabbing his girlfriend and died from his injuries the next day.
I would never get my mother back. The man robbed me of that opportunity.
Robert Brooks' father is one of those watching today from the courtroom.
You marched him out. You let him go. My son didn't get that opportunity. My son didn't have a bail. And my son didn't have a murder charge.
Yeah.
And Marquise Francis joins us now. Marquise, there is one more individual in this case facing a murder charge who did not appear in court at all today.
Yeah, that's right, Morgan. There's a sixth defendant, unnamed defendant, that was also charged with murder. And in fact, this person's name was redacted in the unsealed court documents that were revealed in court today. Now, what we did hear from the district attorney, this person was unable to surrender themselves today and appear in court, but they are not a flight risk. Even though we do not know their name, they are expected to appear before a judge in the near future.
And we know you'll be watching all of it. Marquise, we thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated.
So basically, man, them chimps, they locked up.
As I mentioned at the top.
So what we was talking about, Brim, yo, just so we could tap, man, we was talking about Luigi Mangion, him being, you know, just having a fan base. You know, that's the dude that killed the House CEO. And then, of course, those 9 COs that was arrested and given bail for killing Robbie Brooks. They beat him bad in Marcy's correctional facility. And then, last but not least, we got the Menendez brothers. The Menendez brothers, I seen this story years ago. They were 2 successful dudes. They came from a successful family, you know, had a good upbringing, and, you know, supposedly their father was, you know, inappropriately touching them. You know what I mean? Was doing inappropriate acts with them, and they killed their father. I think they killed their mother and father. You know what I'm saying? And they've been serving life in prison for a long time. So, you know, the juvenile act, they was like 17, 18 when it happened. They've been in jail. They like 50 now. They've been in jail so long. So now California trying to let them go. I think they're gonna get let go. You know what I'm saying? They've been locked up a lot, and people just feeling them and this and that. Like, come on, man. Like, come on, man. Be for real. But they've been locked up so much, and I was like, you know, I feel like I'm gonna be honest with you, like that hurt them. No, they killed their parents, bro. They got to live with that for the rest of their life. I mean, I feel as though, to be honest with you, justice was served. I mean, I feel like they did enough time for like give them another chance of life. Now, I mean, you know, not saying that was right, but y'all killed y'all parents for whatever reason, and you know what I mean. God got a way of working things out. So that's where I'm at with that, with the Menendez brothers. I'll let y'all hear a little bit of these stories. The Menendez brothers. You know, them boys probably was having a rough in California. Hit that notification button, man. Let me get 10 likes. I was a little late this morning. God, will he be working, bro? So, you know.
One of the 3 paths the brothers are taking to try to get out of prison for the 1989 shotgun murders of their parents, Jose and Kitty, in their Beverly Hills petition, which is separate from the brothers' high-profile resentencing effort and the evidence laid out in a 2023 Peacock series about the brothers, which Eric and Lyle say proves they acted in self-defense after years of abuse at the hands of their father.
Sexual abuse in this situation, while it may have been a motivation for Eric and Lyle to do what they did, does not constitute self-defense.
RCA. In that doc, a former Menudo band member alleges Jose Menendez, then head of RCA Records, also molested him. There's also a letter Eric allegedly sent his cousin, writing, "I've been trying to avoid Dad. I stay up thinking he might come in."
If they had evidence that would show that sexual abuse had been communicated not just 6 years before the events, but 9 months before the 1989 killings, that it would absolutely have come out during one or both of their testimonies.
In a new interview from prison on TMZ's Two Angry Men podcast, co-hosted by their own attorney, Mark Aragos, the brothers acknowledged the Netflix series about them has helped boost public support for their case.
It really did actually move a lot of people to understand the childhood trauma that Eric and I suffered.
But tonight, the DA casting doubt on some of the evidence he's reviewed. Is it fair to say that based on everything you've laid out, you may not be recommending a resentence for the brothers?
Again, we haven't decided what to do with respect to resentencing, other than to bring this forward as well. Whatever the DA says to the judge in connection with resentencing, the judge ultimately makes the call.
And lesser just in tonight, family members of the Menendez brothers who support the brothers' release have released a joint statement. In it, they say they are profoundly disappointed by the DA, that he didn't listen to them, that he has effectively torn up new evidence and discredited the trauma that the brothers say they experienced as boys. Let's start.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking.
Yeah, and in fact, he's still doing a Q&A right now. Basically, the DA's office, Phil, is going to be opposing what's called habeas corpus. That is the argument that they didn't get a fair trial or trials back in the 90s. And he laid out today that he believes that they did get a fair trials, and that this alleged letter from Eric to his cousin talking about sexual abuse, that the claim being that it was recently found and that it was from before those trials and shows that there was sexual abuse. He said that they have found no evidence that that is authentic, or that it is timely, or that it really matters in a habeas argument. So this is separate from resentencing. Another argument that they're making, that they have been rehabilitated in prison. He said he has not decided on that yet. There is a hearing in March where they will talk about resentencing, and he said he'll get around to that and decide in the next couple of weeks. But another avenue, another door is closing for the Menendez brothers, where he is now going to the court and saying, as a DA of LA County, that they should not get habeas and they don't want them to get it.
Laid out precedent. He talked about the amount of times the Menendez brothers have brought this up before. We've got habeas that they dealt with today. He said there were three lanes, really. There's clemency, the governor, and resentencing. I'm curious. He began with saying, hey, we have this video at da.lacounty.gov.
Which we understand is overwhelmed right now, by the way, Phil. The people can't even get on there. Everybody wants to see it. It's a different version compared to the Netflix documentary and the Netflix scripted series.
And I'm wondering if you think he did that because there was so much media attention, social media attention surrounding this case, that he wants to give people something to look at as he's laid out the facts of this case.
100%. This is his argument now, because there is a huge part of the population that
that's
on
tough.
TikTok and on other platforms, when the Netflix documentary came out, that, let's face it, was very pro Menendez brothers, that those who weren't alive or didn't pay attention to the trial, they had a view of the case. And he is saying, here I am going to give you the legal view of it, the background of it from the DA's office. And it's going to be surprising now, based on how he laid this out today, with all of the, I mean, he talked about how these were bloody, violent murders, how they lied over many years, how they have been rejected any kind of relief from numerous different courts. If he turns around in a couple of weeks and says, but they should be resentenced and get out of prison because they have been rehabilitated in court or in prison,
I think that
would be surprising, but he may still do that. He may say, well, all of this is deserve a new trial, but that they have done such and such in prison, and that maybe they should be allowed out. That'll be up to him.
They ain't do shit in prison to get a
DA,
rap.
George Gascon was very much for their.
Them boys had hard in California
Seems like
jail.
right
I
now,
promise you they
Hoffman
did.
is very much against it, and today laid out quite a case against them.
When the everyday.
So yeah, that's basically what's going on. The Menendez brothers just basically fighting for another chance, and you know them juvenile laws passed all across the country. So you know, them boys been in jail 30-some years, and like I said, it wasn't like they was in the streets and they did some shit. You get what I'm saying? Nah, it's not like they posed a threat to society. They killed their parents. They wasn't tough guys in the community. So I felt like that's what they got to live with, coming home and knowing that they mom and father and around. They got to deal with that, and then they got support from their family. But I'm telling you that God has the last judgment in this shit. God has the last judgment in this shit. So they had to, if they didn't do that, and that was happening with them, and they did that, because their father was doing inappropriate acts with them. You know what I'm saying? In my eyes, he got what he deserved. But like I say, Allah, God has the last say, whether you believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? So if they did it and they was lying, and the prosecution painted a picture back then that they did it because their parents was wealthy, and if their parents died, they would inherit a lot of money. So that's just the image that they painted for them. You know what I mean? If it wasn't ever about the money, and it was really about them being messed up, bro. That's what it was, bro. But that's some cold shit. Just go kill your parents. That's some cold shit. I know dudes that, man, parents did way right. You know what I'm saying? But in that culture, that goes on a lot. So, you know what I mean? They just, But the jury, and the goddamn prosecutor weren't trying to hear that shit, and they found them boys guilty in 1989. Boys been in jail since 89, man. In 99, 09, 19. Jesus, them boys been in jail for 36 years. Boys been in jail for 36 years, and they was locked up as juveniles. So, you know what I mean? I think they should let them go. Yeah, what's good? What's good? Y'all hit that like button. Hit that like button for me. Hit that like button for me. I ain't no lady, bro. Yeah, so that's just what it was. You know what I mean? So it's a lot more. You know what I mean?
Came out through a documentary investigation they were doing on the band, separately from anything related to Eric and I.
Due to the refocused attention on the case, the Menendez brothers have a chance at freedom after former Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon recommended they be resentenced. California Governor Gavin Newsom said he will not consider clemency until after newly elected DA Nathan Hochman makes his final decision. Hochman says he is not only reviewing case files, but speaking with victims' family members.
A number of victim family members came in. It was a very productive session where they gave me all their thoughts about what should happen in this case, their experiences that they wanted to share, the ultimate direction that they wanted. They've been locked up 36 years, man. I just feel like 36 years have been locked up.
To terms with what happened to my sister's family. It was a nightmare none of us could have imagined. But as details of Lyle and Eric's abuse came to light, it became clear that their actions, while tragic, were the desperate response of two boys trying to survive the unspeakable cruel of their father.
Yeah.
There has been so much news around this.
So I mean, like I said, the Menendez brothers got their family, their mother and father, siblings fighting for them. So I don't know what the prosecutor want to hold them for. I mean, man, it's been 36 years. You know what I mean? It's been 36 years. It's been 36 years. Boys been locked up since they was 18. Put 36 years on 18. What that is, boys 54, 53 years old, man. Hey, what are they gonna do? You know what I mean? That's what the narrative have to be painted. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are they gonna do at 54 and 55 years old? But come on here, live with their family, and just live a normal life. They wasn't criminals before this happened. You know what I mean? And they hurt themselves and their family more than anybody in the community. They don't pose a threat to the community and society. You know what I mean? And then their parents are gone. The people that allegedly was doing this to them. So that's just the way it is, bro. Like, I can't call it, man. I ain't gonna hold you up and play with that. But that's just what I see, man. That's what it is, man. Hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment, man. I came in a little late this morning. I had to jump back in here. I know the algorithm low, but I'm gonna get back at y'all tonight, man. No fuck shit, no fake shit, no foolishness. Anything you say can and will be used against you on the internet. Rado Podcast Vlog, we out.